I tried to collect their souls. These are the words of a man sitting in a glass cage in a Moscow courtroom. A man who killed at least 48 people. A man who told the mother of one victim, "Your son felt no pain when I threw him into the well." Alexander Pichushkin, the Bitsa maniac, the chessboard killer. His idol was Andrei Chikatilo, the USSR's most notorious serial killer, executed in 1994 for 52 murders. Pichushkin wanted to surpass him. 64 victims, one for each square on a chessboard. And here's the most terrifying part. They could have stopped him in 1992 after his very first murder. But they didn't. For 14 years, he turned a Moscow park into his personal hunting ground. For 14 years, nobody stopped him, until one victim did something different, something that would finally end his reign of terror. This is the story of the Chessboard Killer. An ordinary beginning, April 9th, 1974, Mytishchi, Moscow Oblast. A baby boy is born to an ordinary Soviet family. His name is Alexander Yuryevich Pichushkin. He lives with his mother and grandfather in a typical apartment block. Right next to their home is Bitsa Park, a massive forested area where children play and families picnic. Young Sasha is a social, friendly child. He makes friends easily. He shows kindness to animals. The swing. Then, at age 4, everything changes. Sasha is playing on a swing set in Bitsa Park. He's swinging higher and higher when he falls backward, hitting the back of his head against the ground. The swing comes back around and strikes him directly in the forehead with tremendous force. The transformation. After the accident, Sasha's mother notices her son has fundamentally changed. The friendly, social boy disappears. In his place is someone angry, hostile, impulsive. The trauma damaged his frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for impulse control, empathy, and emotional regulation. At 4 years old, a child's skull protects the brain only 1/8 as well as an adult's. Neurological experts will later confirm that this type of injury can trigger dramatic personality changes, particularly in young children whose brains are still developing. But here's the crucial question that will haunt this case. Does brain damage remove moral responsibility? The psychiatric evaluation will ultimately say no. He knew the difference between right and wrong. He understood his actions. He simply chose evil every single time. That retard school becomes a nightmare for young Pichushkin. His classmates notice he's different. They begin to bully him relentlessly. They call him that retard. His mother, desperate to protect him, transfers him to a special school for children with learning disabilities. Pichushkin feels humiliated, abandoned by the normal world. The rage builds. One light in the darkness. There's only one person who sees past the damage, his grandfather. When Pichushkin reaches adolescence, his grandfather recognizes something others miss. This boy is highly intelligent. The grandfather makes a decision. He takes Pichushkin out of the special school and brings him to live in his home. For the first time since the accident, Pichushkin feels wanted. The game. His grandfather teaches him chess. The effect is immediate. Pichushkin discovers he has a natural gift for the game. He can think multiple moves ahead. He can see patterns others miss. Soon, Pichushkin is playing against elderly men in Bitsa Park. He beats players much older and more experienced than himself. Even when they're drinking vodka during games, Pichushkin plays with clarity and precision. Chess becomes his outlet, a way to channel his rage into strategy. For a while, he's almost happy. But then, everything collapses. The death Pichushkin's grandfather dies while he's still a teenager. The loss devastates him. His grandfather was the only person who believed in him. Pichushkin moves back to his mother's cramped apartment. Living room doubled as a bedroom, 3 people squeezed into a tiny space. To numb the pain and manage his severe aggressive tendencies, he begins drinking heavily. Large quantities of vodka become his daily escape. The dog seeking companionship, Pichushkin adopts a dog. He's always preferred animals to people. They don't judge, don't bully, don't reject. He loves that dog. When it dies, he buries it in Bitsa Park, the same park where he suffered his injury, the same park where he played chess with his grandfather. Later, he will use the dog's grave as a lure. "My dog is buried in the park," he'll tell potential victims. "Come with me to remember him." Even his grief becomes a weapon. The dark hobby. But Pichushkin's activities during this period go beyond depression and drinking. He develops a sinister habit. Whenever he encounters children, in his apartment building, in the park, he brings a video camera. He records himself threatening them. In one disturbing video that later becomes public, he holds a young child upside down by one leg and says to the camera, "You are in my power now. I am going to drop you from the window, and you will fall 15 meters to your death." He presents these threats as jokes. The elderly chess players in the park either don't care or think it's harmless. Maybe they're too drunk to notice. But Pichushkin isn't joking. He watches these videos repeatedly to reaffirm his sense of power, to feel like a god in a world that treated him like garbage. By 1992, this practice is no longer enough to satisfy his urges. He needs real power. He needs death. July 1992. The proposal. July 27th, 1992. Pichushkin is 18 years old. He invites his childhood friend and classmate Mikhail Odechuk for a walk in Bitsa Park. They've known each other for years. Mikhail trusts him. As they walk through the trees, Pichushkin makes an extraordinary proposal. He suggests they work together to kill 64 people, one for each square on a chessboard. Mikhail laughs nervously. He thinks it's one of Sasha's dark jokes, but when he realizes his friend is completely serious, Mikhail refuses. The first kill Pichushkin's response is instant. He pulls out a hammer and strikes Mikhail in the back of the head. His friend drops to the ground. Blood spreads across the dirt. According to Pichushkin's later testimony, they had actually been searching for a place to hide a body together. Of course, Odechuk didn't realize he was looking for a grave for himself, Pichushkin will later say, with chilling detachment. Pichushkin drags the body to a sewage well and throws it inside. "I realize that the well fits perfectly. It's hard to find corpses there." First love. Years later, sitting in a police interrogation room, Pichushkin will describe this moment. "It's like first love. You never forget it." The murder gives him something he's never experienced before, absolute power over another life. A moment where he is God, where he decides who lives and who dies. The feeling is overwhelming, intoxicating, addictive, so close to being stopped. 3 days later, police knock on his door. They question him about Mikhail's disappearance. There's evidence pointing to his involvement, witnesses, timelines, connections. But somehow, inexplicably, the investigation stalls. The case goes cold. They let him go. If they had arrested Alexander Pichushkin in July 1992, 48 people would still be alive today. But they didn't. and the Chessboard Killer was born. The long silence. After killing Mikhail, something unexpected happens. Pichushkin stops. For 9 years, he doesn't kill anyone. He gets a job at a warehouse, then moves to a grocery store supermarket. He lives with his mother in a modest apartment building on Khersonskaya Street. He plays chess daily in Bitsa Park with elderly men. To his co-workers and neighbors, he seems harmless, quiet, a bit odd perhaps, but not dangerous. But inside, the pressure is building again, the memory of that first kill, the feeling of power. And in May 2001, he will answer that call. May 2001, The Beast Awakens. May 17, 2001. 52-year-old Yevgeny Pronin becomes Pichushkin's second victim. Pichushkin lures him to Bitsa Park, strikes him with a hammer, and dumps his body into a sewage well. The 9-year silence is over. 6 days later, on May 23rd, he kills Vyacheslav Klimov. Then, June 22nd, Yuri, surname not disclosed. June 26th, Nicholas Tomarov. June 29th, Nicholas Filov. The killing accelerates. July brings 5 more victims, then another, and another. From May 2001 to September 2005, he will attack 36 people. Only 3 will survive: the idol and the rival. During the 1990s, Pichushkin closely followed the case of Andrei Chikatilo, the Rostov Ripper, who terrorized the Soviet Union from 1978 to 1990. Chikatilo murdered and mutilated 52 people, primarily children and young women. Many he sexually assaulted and cannibalized. He was one of the most depraved killers in human history. In February 1994, Chikatilo was executed with a single gunshot to the back of the head. For Pichushkin, Chikatilo represented something powerful, proof that one man could hold an entire nation in fear, proof that a single individual could become more powerful than the state itself. But Chikatilo wasn't just an idol to Pichushkin, he was a competitor. Pichushkin set his goal: surpass Chikatilo. Not 52 victims, but 64, one for each square on a chessboard. This wasn't impulsive violence. This was a calculated plan, a strategy, a game with human lives as pieces. The territory Bitsa Park becomes his killing field. This enormous forested park in southwest Moscow spans over 18 square kilometers. It has dense woods, isolated paths, and dozens of sewage manholes connected to Moscow's underground drainage system. This is where young Sasha played as a child, where he suffered his devastating injury, where he played chess with his grandfather, where he buried his dog. Now he transforms it into a graveyard. The park's director of sewage treatment facilities, V. Mukina, will later testify about what they found in those wells: bodies, bones, remains eaten by strayed dogs. The perfect method. Pichushkin perfects his technique through repetition. He selects elderly homeless men and alcoholics, individuals society has forgotten, people whose disappearances won't be reported for weeks or months. He approaches them in Bitsa Park and offers vodka. In Russia, especially among the homeless and elderly, this is a common social gesture. Nobody suspects danger. He suggests drinking in a secluded spot, somewhere quiet, somewhere private. They walk together into the forest. They sit, they drink, they talk, and then, when the victim is relaxed, Pichushkin strikes from behind with a hammer. Always from behind, always unexpected. "I like the sound of a skull cracking," he will later tell investigators. After the victim falls, Pichushkin drives a vodka bottle into the gaping wound in their skull. This becomes his signature. Then he drags the body to a nearby sewage manhole and pushes it inside. Sometimes the victims are still alive, but too drunk and injured to save themselves. They drown in the sewage water or die slowly from their injuries in the darkness below. Pichushkin walks away, returns to his normal life, goes to work, plays chess, and plans his next move on the board, hunting at home. Here's what makes it even more disturbing. At least 10 of his victims lived in the same residential complex on Kersonskaya Street where Pichushkin lived. 4 people from building number 2, 2 from building 4, 3 from building 6, 1 from building 8. These weren't strangers. These were neighbors, people he saw in hallways, people he nodded to in elevators. He was hunting in his own backyard. Many of his victims were people he knew personally, neighbors, acquaintances, people from the park. The closer a person is to you, Pichushkin later explained, the more pleasurable it is to kill them. He would tell potential victims, "My dog is buried in the park. Come with me to remember him." It was the perfect lure, innocent, emotional, trustworthy, and it worked. Again and again and again. Maria Viricheva, February 23, 2002. Maria Viricheva is a saleswoman and pregnant. Pichushkin convinces her to walk with him into Bitsa Park. They reach an isolated area. Before she can react, Pichushkin attacks. He pushes her toward a sewage manhole. Maria claws at the edges, desperately trying to prevent herself from falling into the dark shaft below. Pichushkin grabs her by the hair. Then he begins smashing her head against the concrete walls. Again and again. Finally, her grip weakens. She falls. Pichushkin walks away, but Maria Viricheva doesn't die. She regains consciousness in the sewage well, injured, bleeding, but alive. She manages to climb out. She survives. But fear and trauma keep her silent. She doesn't go to the police. If she had reported it then, in February 2002, Pichushkin would have been arrested. The investigation would have connected him to other disappearances. Instead, he continues killing for 4 more years. Mikhail Lobov, March 10, 2002. Mikhail Lobov is 14 years old. He loves skateboarding. Pichushkin approaches the boy in the park. He's friendly, harmless. He offers Mikhail cigarettes and vodka. They walk together into a secluded part of Bitsa Park. Without warning, Pichushkin strikes Mikhail in the head with a hammer. The boy collapses. Pichushkin drags him to a manhole and pushes him inside. He walks away, but Mikhail's jacket catches on a metal protrusion inside the well. Instead of falling into the water, he hangs suspended. He regains consciousness, confused, terrified, in excruciating pain. Slowly, agonizingly, the 14-year-old boy climbs out. He survives. Several days later, by terrible coincidence, Mikhail encounters Pichushkin again. He confronts him. Pichushkin's response is chilling in its coldness. He threatens to call the police himself and accuse Mikhail. He twists reality, making the boy feel like he's the one in danger. Mikhail, terrified and confused, stays silent. If he had spoken up, Pichushkin would have been arrested in March 2002. At least 30 more people would still be alive. The third survivor. A third victim also survives one of Pichushkin's attacks. Details about this person remain limited in public records. 3 people, 3 chances to stop him. All 3 stay silent. The silence allowed Pichushkin to continue his game, and the body count kept rising. 64 squares, 64 souls. Pichushkin has a clear, methodical goal. 64 murders, 1 for each square on a chessboard. In his apartment on Kersonskaya Street, investigators will eventually find a chessboard with dates carefully marked on individual squares. Each filled square represents a life he claims to have taken. When police discover it, they find something disturbing. 61 squares are filled. Only 3 remain empty. But here's the chilling detail. Pichushkin is only convicted of 48 murders. The discrepancy reveals his psychology. He filled squares for all the murders he believed he committed, including those that were never proven or where bodies were never found. To him, every square mattered. Every kill counted. He was keeping score in a game only he understood. The Soul Collector. During his trial, Pichushkin will make a statement that freezes the courtroom. "I tried to collect their souls." Psychiatric experts later identify this as thanatophilia, a pathological, obsessive fascination with death. For Pichushkin, murder became the only thing that made him feel truly alive. He describes it in stark terms. "For me, a life without murder would be like a life without food for you." It's not a compulsion he regrets. It's a need he embraces. The God complex? "I felt like the father of all these people," Pichushkin explains in another interview, "because I opened the door to another world for them." In his twisted worldview, he's not taking lives. He's granting passage. He's a conductor between worlds. During police interrogations, he admits something even more disturbing. Killing gave him orgasms. Murder wasn't just psychologically gratifying, it was physically pleasurable. This is not a man wrestling with inner demons. This is a man who has become one. The accelerating spiral. From 2002 onward, Pichushkin's killing frequency increases dramatically. He murders roughly once a month, sometimes 3 victims within 10 days. He becomes bolder with each success. He stops limiting himself to homeless strangers. He starts killing people he knows personally. According to his own testimony, he knew at least 20 of his victims. The risk excites him. Every successful murder makes him feel more powerful than the state, more powerful than God himself. He's playing with the police, daring them to catch him. 2006, a city gripped by fear. By early 2006, bodies are being discovered regularly in Bitsa Park. The press names him the Bitsa Beast. Moscow's tabloids run lurid headlines. Parents forbid their children from entering the park. Women refuse to walk there even in daylight. Homeless populations flee the area entirely. Police patrol the park day and night. But the murders continue. By June 2006, investigators estimate they're looking for a killer responsible for at least 40 murders, possibly more. Russia is gripped by fear and fascination. The investigation struggles. The challenge facing investigators is immense. Most victims are homeless, alcoholics, or otherwise marginalized. Nobody reports them missing for weeks or months. By the time bodies are discovered, crucial evidence has been washed away by rain or destroyed by animals. Stray dogs in the park eat some of the corpses, scattering remains. This makes identification nearly impossible. There are no witnesses. Who goes into remote sections of a massive park late at night? And who would remember seeing a quiet man walking with an elderly homeless person? Pichushkin understands these advantages perfectly. He's chosen his hunting ground with strategic precision. False leads. The pressure on police is enormous. In February 2006, officers shoot a man in the leg after spotting him behaving suspiciously in Bitsa Park. They interrogate him for hours. Wrong person. They release him. They detain a transvestite found carrying a hammer in her purse. another dead end. Meanwhile, the real killer continues living his double life. By day, he works at the supermarket. By night, he hunts. Nobody suspects him. Marina Moscalova, June 14, 2006. June 14, 2006. Pichushkin makes a decision that will end his killing spree. He invites a co-worker to go for a walk with him. Her name is Marina Moscalova. She's 36 years old. She works alongside him at the supermarket. She has a family, a son who loves her. She's not homeless, not marginalized, not forgotten. This is different. This is risky. But risk has become part of the thrill. Pichushkin is at the peak of his confidence. He's killed dozens of people without consequences. Marina senses something is wrong, but she agrees anyway. The note that changed everything before leaving her apartment, Marina does something none of Pichushkin's other victims did. She writes a note and leaves it for her son. The note is simple. Going for a walk with Pichushkin. Here's his phone number. Just a few words, a precaution. Those few words will bring down the chessboard killer. The walk Marina and Pichushkin leave together. They take the metro. From the outside, they look like co-workers on a friendly outing. Security cameras at the metro station capture them walking side by side. They arrive at Bitsa Park and walk into the forest. And then Marina Moscalova disappears. The investigation begins. When Marina doesn't return home, her son becomes worried. He finds the note. He calls the phone number his mother left. Pichushkin answers. "I haven't seen your mother," Pichushkin says calmly. "We walked for a bit, then we separated. I don't know where she went." The son tells his father. His father immediately calls the police. Unlike dozens of previous victims, Marina is not forgotten. She has a family who loves her, a family who will fight for answers. The evidence chain investigators move quickly. They find Marina's body in Bitsa Park. In her pocket is a metro ticket. The ticket has a timestamp and station code. Police pull surveillance footage from that metro station on that date and time. And there, clear as day, is Alexander Pichushkin walking alongside Marina Moscalova. The video is undeniable. June 15, 2006. The police arrest Alexander Pichushkin at his apartment. At first, he denies everything, but investigators have the surveillance video. When they show it to him, Pichushkin's facade cracks. He stares at the screen for a long moment. Then he speaks. "In reality, the Bitsa maniac, as they called me in the press, that's me." And then Alexander Pichushkin begins to confess. "I committed 60 murders." Sitting in a Moscow police interrogation room, Pichushkin makes a stunning claim. "I committed 60 murders, all within the territory of Bitsa Park. The first was in 1992. It was my classmate, Mikhail Odichuk." He speaks calmly, methodically. He claims he personally knew 20 of his victims. He says he can provide details investigators don't know. He offers to show them burial locations. "I even pointed out to the investigation moments they didn't know about," Pichushkin later says, with something resembling pride. The verification problem. There's a problem. By June 2006, police have only recovered 14 bodies from Bitsa Park. Pichushkin can't remember where he disposed of all the corpses. The sewage system is extensive and complex. Bodies decompose. Animals scatter remains. Investigators are skeptical. Is Pichushkin exaggerating for notoriety? Fighting for recognition? When prosecutors formally charge him with 48 murders, Pichushkin is upset. He demands they add 11 more victims to reach his claimed total of 60. It would be unfair to forget about the other 11 people, he insists during court proceedings. This isn't remorse. This is a man fighting for credit, for recognition, for his place in history. He wants every square on his chessboard acknowledged. The interviews. In recorded police interviews later broadcast on Russian television, Pichushkin speaks about his crimes with eerie detachment. "They saved many lives by catching me," he admits matter-of-factly. "I would never have stopped on my own." When asked about his emotions during the killings, he responds simply, "I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. No anger during the murders, no guilt afterward, just emptiness, except for the sense of power. That was everything." September 2007, the courtroom. The trial of Alexander Pichushkin begins in September 2007. He's 33 years old now, balding, unremarkable in appearance. He sits in a glass cage in the courtroom, a security measure used for dangerous criminals in Russian courts. His hands are shackled behind his back. Presiding over the trial is Judge Vladimir Usov. In the gallery sit 41 relatives of victims. The prosecution has assembled 98 witnesses. The courtroom is packed. Journalists from across Russia and the world are present. Vera Konoltseva, A Mother's Pain. Among those in the courtroom is Vera Konoltseva. Her son, Andrei, disappeared in December 2001. For years, she didn't know what happened to him. Now she knows he was murdered by the man sitting meters away in a glass cage. At one point during the trial, Vera raises her hand. The judge allows her to speak. She asks Pichushkin about her son. Pichushkin turns toward her. His expression is blank. "We went for a walk, drank vodka, talked," he says in a monotone. "When he was drunk, I threw him into a well." A pause. "Your son felt no pain," he adds. Vera Konoltseva begins to cry quietly. Pichushkin shows no reaction, no empathy, no acknowledgement of her suffering. He simply waits for the next question. The psychiatric evaluation. One of the key questions during the trial is Pichushkin's mental state. The psychiatric evaluation concludes, Pichushkin suffers from personality disorder expressed in sadistic tendencies toward murder. But he understands the difference between right and wrong. He knew his actions were criminal. He chose to commit them anyway. He is legally responsible for his crimes. The brain damage from childhood may have contributed to his lack of empathy and impulse control. But it didn't remove his ability to choose. Alexander Pichushkin chose evil, again and again. October 24th, 2007. The verdict. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury reaches its verdict. Guilty. 48 counts of murder, 3 counts of attempted murder. The defendant, Alexander Yuryevich Pichushkin, is found guilty without mitigating circumstances on all counts. Judge Vladimir Usov announces. The courtroom erupts. Some people cheer, others cry. Relatives of victims embrace each other. Pichushkin remains expressionless. The sentence. It takes Judge Usov a full hour to read the complete sentence. Life imprisonment, the first 15 years to be served in solitary confinement. In Russia, the death penalty has been abolished in practice since a moratorium was established in 1996. If it were still in effect, Pichushkin would certainly have been executed. His case sparked serious public debate in Russia about reinstating capital punishment. The scale of his crimes, 48 confirmed murders, made many Russians question whether life imprisonment was sufficient justice. But the moratorium held. Pichushkin would spend the rest of his life in a cell. My bed is uncomfortable. At the end of the trial, Judge Usov asks Pichushkin if he has any final statements. Pichushkin speaks. I have plenty of time to answer questions now, he says. But I'm very tired. My bed in the detention center is not very comfortable. Not a word of remorse, not a single acknowledgement of the 48 lives he took, just a complaint about his mattress. When asked directly if he understood the sentence, Pichushkin responds with irritation, I'm not deaf. And with that, the chessboard killer's time in the public eye ends. Where he is now, Alexander Pichushkin is currently serving his life sentence in a maximum security prison colony somewhere in Russia. He is now 51 years old. He will die in that prison. For the first 15 years, he remained in solitary confinement. Just him, 4 walls, and his memories of 48 murders, his chessboard, the physical board found in his apartment, with dates marked on squares, remains evidence in police archives. 3 squares remain empty, 3 squares away from his goal of 64. The game he spent 14 years playing will remain forever incomplete. 48 confirmed dead. The final body count? 48 confirmed murders, 3 confirmed survivors. Pichushkin claimed 60 victims total. He may have been telling the truth. Many bodies were never recovered from the sewage system beneath Bitsa Park. Each victim was a person, someone's father, someone's son, someone's friend, people with lives and stories and futures that ended in a dark forest because a man with a hammer decided to play a game with human lives. The question that haunts 1992. An 18-year-old boy kills his childhood friend and throws the body into a well. Police question him. There's evidence. Witnesses place them together. But the investigation stalls. The case goes cold. They let him go. What if they hadn't? Marina Moscalova would have raised her son. Vera Konoltseva would still have her boy Andrei. 48 families would be whole. Bitsa Park would just be a park, a place where families picnic and children play. 1 arrest in 1992. That's all it would have taken. The legacy Pichushkin achieved his goal in one sense. He entered history. He's remembered as one of Russia's most prolific serial killers. Journalists called him the most dangerous murderer in Russia since Andrei Chikatilo. Bitsa Park is forever linked to his name. Even today, locals avoid certain areas of the park. Chess, a game of strategy and intelligence, became a symbol of cold, calculated murder. And the image of that chessboard with 61 filled squares and 3 empty ones haunts everyone who sees it. How evil ends. Pichushkin once said he would never have stopped on his own, and he was probably telling the truth. He didn't stop because of police investigation. He didn't stop because of guilt. He didn't stop because his urges faded. He stopped because Marina Moscalova left a note, because she wrote down a name and a phone number, because a metro ticket stayed in her pocket, because a security camera was working that day. The chessboard killer wasn't brought down by brilliant detective work or a heroic confrontation. He was stopped by small details, ordinary precautions, the basic human instinct of a mother protecting herself with information. Sometimes evil isn't defeated by heroes. Sometimes it's defeated by a note left on a kitchen table. Alexander Pichushkin played his game for 14 years. He killed at least 48 people. He came within 3 squares of his goal. But in the end, he made one move he couldn't take back, and his board will remain forever incomplete.